As we can see, all these gateways are unpowered, regardless of if he's supply blocked or not. I guess it doesn't really matter. Now all these probes are leaving the natural expansion, and he is just floating all of his probes across the map. All the tech is down in the Zerg main now that this fire is going to drop. This is a weird game. A bunch of overlords clustering up here, as we can see. Here come the Mutalisks. They notice there's no mining going on, so they have to be thinking something weird is up. Meanwhile, the Zerg third, there's no rally on this lair, as we can see, and a little bit of mining going on at the third here. Probes are coming in here in order to try to see what's going on, but you don't need to sack that many probes. It looks like for the Protoss is just going for a straight-up elimination right now. As we all may know, as soon as you can kill all of your opponent's buildings, it's game over. But the Zerg is well insured from something like that. Even throwing down some spine crawlers here. He did cancel a couple, as we can see. Drones just hanging out right there. And probes are being pulled and just sitting in a little bit of a hiding place. He really needs to either commit to killing everything or commit to getting his base back up. If he lets the Zerg player get away with these hatcheries for too long, the Zerg player is going to really come back, and we may have an even more interesting situation than we're seeing right now. These Mutalisks can't really commit on what they're supposed to be doing. They should be taking down as much Protoss tech as possible, at least staying active. He can't engage this army straight up, but he can try and eliminate the Protoss player, so he needs to be active with these Mutalisks. He needs to start spreading overlords and see where the Protoss player is sitting around at. This Nexus is basically the last stand point for the Protoss player, so as inevitably these buildings are all going to go down. There are still 30 Mutalisks in the sky, again about that critical mass number. There are 7 spine crawlers coming up here at the Zerg base. They should finish by the time this Protoss player is able to come over there and possibly discover it. He obviously does not know about it. Mutalisks are still wrecking stuff up in the Protoss main. Blinkstalkers are finally recovering, and these Mutalisks should be able to get all these buildings down before the Protoss player can get here, if he focus fires well enough and micros well enough, which he's trying to do now. But no, the Blinkstalkers come in here and are going to straight up engage these Mutalisks. I felt the Mutalisks had a little bit of an advantage there since this army was a little bit split up, but nevertheless he's going to retreat, and he is falling into more of a macro mode as he's trying to get his economy back online. 5 drones on the way, and the observer here is going to spot this Zerg base, but it's just a question of if this Protoss player feels comfortable engaging that. Now, if he got this observer, say right here, he would be able to just blink past it all and head into this main base, but the Nexus is going to go down, as we can see here, and there's another Nexus started at the Zerg third, so they're basically trading sides of the map at this point. There's a hidden pylon here in the Zerg main. These Mutalisks are going to discover this other expansion, so the Protoss player's in a lot of trouble in terms of being able to retain his buildings. There's only a few left on the map. Stalkers come in here to deny these Mutalisks, so this is such a weird game so far. Sentries could get stranded there. He needs to really be careful by ditching his sentries like that, especially when there's this many Mutalisks in the sky, as we can see. Zerg base is still coming online, more drones coming out. You can see the production tab for the Protoss player is totally dead, and he is running a little bit low on minerals now, but he is now mining once again. The rest of the buildings in the Protoss main are going to go down. He will be left on just this one base that's barely mining and this one pylon, so you can't help but figure that the Protoss player is a little bit behind right now, that the longer this game goes, considering the Zerg is going to be on 2 base and he's going to be on 1. Both players are now in the red, so we'll be seeing a little bit of nothing but supply production to get these 2 players back in this game. This is definitely an interesting game thus far. Mutalisks are going to catch this little pylon out here and take it out. So one small victory for the Zerg once again. But eventually, if the Zerg player wants to win, he's going to have to engage this Protoss army. We'll have to see if he thinks he's able to get ahead by just macroing. And he does lose a Mutalisk there. He's probably going to lose 2 more if he's not careful. No, this one does get away. So he only loses 2 total. But the Zerg player is desperately trying to get his economy back online. He is floating just a little bit of minerals. And again, this is just complete crisis management. A battle between these 2 to see who can really pull out a win when all of the chips are down and when there's really nothing else left to do but make the best decisions from this point on. If you're stuck in this kind of situation, you need to commit to either 1, attacking with your army, or 2, protecting your base. You can't really do either one. I mean, if you're protecting your base, you're saying, I can catch up by making workers. If you're not, then you need to be hiding little buildings around the map and going in there as hard as you can and try to kill the Zerg player or whatever opponent you might be facing. it's a weird situation to try to recover in, but believe me, I've been in a lot of weird situations like this. The better players are the ones that are able to navigate their way out of this. There's more creep spreading going on here, and if he gets this creep spread far enough, he's going to be able to block this expansion for the Protoss player. The Protoss player is now just walking around strangely, and if the Zerg player is paying attention to his mini-map here, he would have noticed his probe walking in, so he could be thinking there's a little bit of oddities going on in the space. Protoss player is just sitting his probe around. Again, some weird stuff going on in this game. Both players just trying to macro up really hard. 6 roaches are now on the way, which is a really good answer to this army composition. Of course, force fields can push them back, but you also have to deal with the mutalisks in addition to the roaches that will be on the ground. And this is why a lot of people will stress unit retention. If you can retain your units, they're obviously going to be more valuable later on in the game. So unit retention should be one of your main focuses. And if you get into a situation like this in the late game, it's essentially going to be whoever can retain their units the best is going to win. This Protoss player is actually looking pretty good. He does now have 4 gateways operational. He does have a cybernetics core up, Twilight Council coming up in order to possibly research charge or more upgrades or something. He doesn't have a forge down as far as I know, so it's a little bit of a strange building. This Protoss player does have a scout in the Zerg base, so he is going to see exactly what is going on here. And like if we just take a step back for a moment from this game, Zerg player started here, Protoss player started here, and they've completely switched sides in the sense that they've switched both crossways on both sides. And here is the cool play that Protoss player was doing. It even had me confused with that Twilight Council. He is throwing up a Dark Shrine in order to get some Dark Templars on the field since he sees no Zerg detection. The Zerg does have a lair, so if he can morph one of his Overlords into Overseers, he may minimize the damage. But again, this is just making the right calls is going to win or lose you the game, so we're going to see exactly how this goes. Needless coming here trying to snipe a pylon. They don't want to take any losses if they can help it. So he feigns the retreat, comes back in, and he kills the pylon. Every little thing is a big victory here, considering it does supply block our Protoss player, and if he does not get any pylon started, he's losing a lot of time with his Dark Templar. Here comes the pylon in order to repower that. 9 more roaches on the way for the Zerg player. This Zerg army is looking pretty scary. If he was really sizing this up correctly, he could probably push in and take the game right now if he got a good engagement angle, considering roaches are very good against stalkers, and in combination with mutalisks in particular, if all these stalkers are clumping up, mutalisks are going to be splashing all over them. Roaches deal a really good amount of damage to stalkers anyway. Here he comes with this huge army, and this is really going to come down to force fields and engagement angle for the Protoss player. If this was on open field, this Protoss player would lose. So here we go. We're going to see exactly what happens. Dark Templar are now leaving, and if you have a really good eye, you can see these Dark Templar moving right there by those little ghost images. These Dark Templar are going to make a mess in that Zerg base if he is not ready for it. So we're going to have a 2-sided attack here once again. Here come the roaches. Good force fields to sever them off from the army. These roaches are going to have to retreat, and there's a ton of energy left on these sentries, and there's a ton of sentries nevertheless, so he should be able to endlessly force field. Dark Templars are in the base. He's trying to get the hatchery down, which I mean, it's a pretty good call, but he needs to get it down quickly, and just 2 Dark Templar are going to take a little while. There is an Overseer morphing right here, so these Spine Crawlers are going to kill this as soon as it comes up. Is he going to get the hatchery? Yes, he does. Wow, barely by 1 hit. The other hatchery is still under duress, and he needs to pull his mutalisks and get over here and deal with this right now. The other hatchery is down as well. Wow, just in time with both Dark Templars. So this Zerg has no mining. He may be prompted to go all in right now, but he is throwing up his other hatcheries. There are some drones leaving the base, going to this hatchery over here, which we actually missed coming up. So the Zerg player was a little bit prepared, ready to continue his macro style. And another thing the Dark Templars are going to do is force him to put out Overseers, and keep them with his army. This Protoss player is now taking the main of the bottom base, which if he was here before, he would have lost to that 6 pool. So interesting little bit of retrospect if you think about it. Here comes the Mutalisk flocking in here once again. A good hallucinated Phoenix came across. Or did I say Mutalisks? If I didn't, I meant Mutalisks. Anyway, This game has me a little bit frazzled. I don't know if I agree with this Protoss player moving down here since he knows the Mutalisks are out, and the Roach Mutalisk attack is very real. But then again, the supplies show about equal between these two, so maybe the Protoss player has a decent chance at holding this off. Quite frankly, he needs to not get his army split like this because these Mutalisks are now confident that they can take out a lot of Stalkers, and wise choice to now start retreating just a little bit as he is losing a fair amount of Mutalisks, but somewhat even exchange there. I mean, Mutalisks are pretty valuable, but this Protoss player is still a little bit behind in terms of tech and in terms of overall status in the game. But with an engagement like that from the Zerg player, as we just saw, the Zerg player is now going to be well behind. So good work from the Protoss player in order to claw his way back into this. Zerg is taking a fourth, getting super greedy, and there are more Roaches on the way. This Protoss army is looking pretty scary now that the Zerg army is really dwindling. Protoss player is probably going to go into a little bit of a shark mode in order to try to deny expansions rather than trying to attack straight into this line of spine crawlers. A bunch of these spine crawlers were hurt, so it could have been a DT harass while this other battle was going on. There seems to be a theme in this game. There's just a whole lot going on at all times. Those Broodlings probably feel pretty proud by getting one of those Stalkers down, and he does cancel out this hatchery, which was unfortunately not mining for him, but this hatchery is now exposed, and this Zerg player really needs to get forces on the field and stop this army as soon as possible. He is losing one Roach there, other Roaches in the Amber. Here he comes to the third, and this third is most definitely going to go down. A little bit of a counterattack here from these Mutalisks, as you can see, are really thinned out. Mutalisks are going to be picking off reinforcements, but if he gets all of this mining down and is able to somehow army trade with this Protoss player, he will be way, way ahead. So again, more weird base trade situations going on here. Zerg player is just going to sit back here and try to use this as a last stand point. Zerg has hardly any mining going on right now. Both of them are at 12 workers, and you can see him evacuating all of his workers out of his mining base. Mutalisks are back to wreck up the main again, as we can see. This is a familiar set of circumstances we're in. Mutalisks get caught in the middle of the map. All of them are lost. That's very bad. Again, we're in another weird base trade situation where this Zerg player almost feels willing to get into a base trade situation.